All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Paradyme. We hope you're having a great week, putting in that work to become a great man for tomorrow. Before we start the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment down below. We love hearing from you. And look down in the description below. All our social medias will be in there. And we want to make sure to reach out to you guys as well. So make sure you follow us. If you haven't noticed, our little David got a nice little haircut going up over there. Boy, look 5 years younger. But this week we read chapter 8 from David Goggins' book Can't Hurt Me, titled Talent Not Required. So I want to ask you guys, what was your favorite part and why?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So, while he's discussing the chapter, he's moving through the chapter. He starts to recruit kids in high school. He's looking, or college actually. I think he starts running with high school students, so that he allows them to come be his crew for his marathons, and while he's like traveling the world. And then kids always ask him about his military career, and if they have the same hardware he had to develop this will and this grit about achieving a lot and pushing himself through all this stuff that a lot of people wouldn't push themselves through. A lot of people would kind of give up and kind of just go back into a quote unquote mediocre life. And then he talks about, he gives them advice. He just says the culture has become hooked on this quick fix, the life hack efficiency. Everyone is on the hunt for the simple action algorithm that's maximum profit with the least amount of effort. I think looking at us, looking at the actions I take every day with the schedule, why I wake up early, go to the gym, and try to be effective with my time as much as possible. And we'll get to that too with the challenges. Thinking about what David Goggins is talking about is, I don't want to be that person that just like, I don't have enough time. Like, how do you do this? Or how did you build that mindset? David Goggins is just as human as we are. You know what I mean? So I think he's always humbling himself. If you guys ever noticed that, like, he's always humbling himself in this story, in his book. And I think that's just great to acknowledge. Like, he's not looking to be some celebrity figure when he wrote this book or when he was going through the Navy or teaching high school students. He was just doing what he believed the best thing he could do with his life should be. You know what I mean? So that was my favorite part of that chapter,
Yeah, kind of going off of that, my favorite part, even in what you said, is you said a lot of people think they don't have time. You know, we don't want to be the type of people that think they don't have time, right? And so my favorite part here is on page 249, and it goes into 251, but I'll kind of clip it up. It says, the number one excuse I hear from people as to why they don't work out as much as they want to is that they don't have time. Look, we all have work obligations. None of us want to lose sleep, and you'll need time with the family or they'll trip the fuck out. I get it. And if that's your situation, you must win in the morning. Right? So he says, maybe you think you're a special case or an obsessive maniac. Fine, I won't argue with you. But what about my friend Mike? He's a big-time financial advisor in New York City. His job is high pressure, and his workday is a hell of a lot longer than 8 hours. He has a wife, 2 kids, and he's an ultra runner. Here's exactly how he does it. He wakes up at 4 a.m. every weekday, runs 60 to 90 minutes each morning while his family is still snoozing, rides a bike to work and back, and does a quick 30-minute treadmill run after he gets home. He goes out for longer runs on weekends, but he minimizes its impact on his family's obligations. He's high-powered, wealthy as fuck, and could easily maintain his status quo with less effort and enjoy the sweet fruits of his labors, but he finds a way to stay hard because his labors are his sweetest fruits. Each hour of his week is dedicated to a particular task, and when that hour shows up in real time, he focuses 100% on that task. That's how I do it too, because that is the only way to minimize wasted hours. You know, I don't know about, the people that started recently working out. So I know David started working out before me, but people, when they started noticing changes in you, they're like, wow, what are you doing? Right? I mean, I got this too when I first started working out. What are you doing? You going to the gym? Like, what's going on? Yeah, I'm going to the gym. I go, 3-4 times a week, 5 times a week. Man, I wish I could go too. I just don't have time. How many times have we all heard that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If homie that's a financial advisor in New York City, high pressure job, wife, kids, Andy's an ultra runner, can find time in his schedule to focus on a physical dimension or to pursue a hobby, I think it's possible. In fact, I know it's possible that just us average people could as well, you know, for people that want to be more than just average. So that was my favorite part, because, you know, I've heard it and, you know, it just really stood out to me in this chapter.
Awesome.
Yeah. Going off that one, like working out, since we were talking about working out, my favorite part is the paragraph on page 256 where he starts by saying, "The sole reason I work out like I do isn't to prepare for and win ultra races. I don't have an athletic motive at all. It's to prepare my mind for life itself. Life will always be the most grueling endurance sport. And when you train hard, get uncomfortable, and callous your mind, you will become a more versatile competitor, trained to find a way forward no matter what. Because there will be times when life comes at you like a sledgehammer. Sometimes life hits you dead in the fucking heart." That was my favorite paragraph. You know, it's easy to look at someone, I'd say, who's very fit, and, you know, you could maybe associate, oh yeah, they're just into the way they look, or they're very vain, or that's a, you know, you look good, that's a benefit of working out. But the biggest reward, or the most powerful weapon that you're working and building is the power, like, in your mind to callous it and to get it prepared for trivial things that happen that would be very hard things for people who don't work out. You know, you can be prepared for it and you can manage it better. So I really like the way that he put that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
And it's okay if you're working out just for the physical looks. I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's okay too, you know?
Yeah.
My favorite part in the book was page, was it 249? Yeah. Because passion, obsession, even talent are only useful tools if you have the work ethic to back them up. My work ethic is the single most important factor in all my accomplishments. I like that. For me, I would say, you know, the Lord's number one, but number two, definitely the work ethic, you know?
Mhm.
So I like how he puts that talent, obsession, and passion aren't enough if you don't have the work ethic to back up what you're doing. You can't fake work ethic.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
true.
for damn sure. Sheesh. Yeah, definitely. All right, so this brings us to the summary. Those are all good parts of the chapter. I really enjoyed this one. You know, it's hard not to like this book. We highly recommend here at Paradyme that you go pick up this book, read it, and become inspired like we have. So I'll jump into the summary of the chapter. So this chapter begins with Goggins, his mother, and his wife in Kona, Hawaii in 2006, the night before the Ultraman Race. Ultraman is a 3-day event where Goggins would have to swim 6.2 miles, bicycle 261 miles, and run 52.4 miles, covering the entire perimeter of the big island of Hawaii. The race launched from the beach beside the pier in downtown Kona, and there were only 30 competitors in the entire field. The horn sounded off, and the 6.2-mile swim, which should have taken Goggins 2.5 hours to complete, took him over 3 hours due to some wardrobe malfunctions that caused pain. Goggins swam a meandering line that turned 6.2 miles into 7.5 miles. Goggins states his legs were like jelly when he gets to the shore, and his vision rocked like he was in an earthquake. So he laid down, crawled behind the bathrooms, and vomited some more, while the other competitors hopped on their bikes and pedaled off into the lava fields. They had 90 miles ahead of them on day one. Once he finished vomiting, he focused on getting his legs under him and slowing his spun-out mind. He started by getting some food down, then treated the cuts caused by the painful wardrobe malfunction, and changed his clothes. Once that 15-minute process was complete, he was on the bike, headed into the lava fields as well. The first 20 minutes of which he was nauseous, he pedaled and puked, replenished his fluids, and puked some more. Through all of that, he tasked himself with one job: stay in the fight, stay in it long enough to get a foothold. And 10 miles later, he shook off his sea legs and found momentum. He started to catch up to riders and pass them one by one, and each time he passed one, he got less and less sick. He started in 14th place once he finally got on his bike. And at the end of the day, there was only one man in front of him, Gary Wang, the favorite in the race. The following morning, the competitors lined up for stage 2 of Ultraman, a 171-mile bike ride through the mountains and back towards the west coast of the big island of Hawaii. By mile 100, Goggins was 6 minutes off the lead. Goggins states, with the biggest climb of the day looming into view, I needed to be ready to roar. And on a bicycle, mountains produce pain, and pain was my business. As the roads peaked in pitch, I put my head down and hammered as hard as I could. My lungs heaved until they were flipped inside out and back again. My heart was a pounding bass line. When I crested the pass, my mom pulled up alongside me and hollered, David, you are 2 minutes off the lead. Goggins curled into an aerodynamic crouch and shot downhill at over 40 miles an hour. When the road leveled off, he went all out and kept a 27-mile-per-hour pace. Then his front tire blew, and before he could react, he was sent flying into space. He crashed on his right shoulder and side. The side of his face skid the asphalt until he stopped moving, where he rolled onto his back in shock. Thank God, the only things broken were his helmet, sunglasses, and unfortunately, his bicycle. The cause? He'd run over a bolt that pierced the tire, tube, and rim. Not worrying about his physical condition, all he could focus on was his bike. He was underprepared yet again. He had no spare parts and had no idea how to change a tire, even if he did. The day before, he had rented a heavy piece of shit replacement just in case. Before he started on that, he called for the official race mechanics and waited 20 precious minutes only to find out they didn't have the supplies to fix it. So he hopped on that clunker and kept rolling. 16 miles from the finish line, the mechanics tracked him down with the repaired bicycle to Goggins' surprise. He switched and made up 8 minutes on the leaders. For day 3, Goggins devised a game plan. He states, go out hard and build up a fat cushion over Gary and Landshark, who were the leaders at the time, so that when I hit the inevitable wall, I'd have enough distance to maintain the overall lead all the way to the finish line. In other words, I didn't have a strategy at all. At mile 35, Goggins was already in agony, walking more than running. By mile 40, both enemy vehicles pulled up to watch Goggins' form, which was showing a ton of weakness. They relayed this message back to Gary and Landshark, which gave them ammunition and spark. By mile 45, Gary had blown up too, but Landshark was still on the hunt, and as Goggins staggered toward the downtown Kona, his lead evaporated. David lost by 10 total minutes, and Landshark was crowned Ultraman. David didn't have a game plan prior to this race, like he did for Badwater, let alone backup plans, which Goggins calls backstops. In the end, getting second place in Ultraman was no disaster. In fact, a great thing came out of it. Navy brass began to take notice. One morning, Goggins was called into a meeting with Admiral Ed Winters, the top man of the Naval Special Warfare Command. Admiral Winters states, you're representing us really well, but there's some men out there we need to do a lot better job of reaching out to, and I'm hoping that you can help. Thanks to the positive media Goggins had generated, he had received orders to join the recruitment division in 2007, and by the time he met with Admiral Winters, Goggins had done plenty of public speaking on the behalf of the Navy SEALs. The SEALs were terrible at recruiting African Americans. They only made up 1% of all special forces, even though they make up 13% of the population. Goggins was the 36th African American to graduate BUD/S ever. Goggins states, we weren't hitting the best places to recruit black men into the SEAL teams, and we didn't have the right recruiters either. And in 2007, Al-Qaeda had made roads into Africa, and white guys stand out like a reflective road sign. The time had finally come when special forces needed black people, and military leaders were clueless as to how to meet that need. So David was tasked with hitting the road with the goal of spiking recruit numbers in the POC category, people of color. Goggins' first stop was Howard University, the largest HBCU in the country. He and the Admiral walked out to the football field in full uniform, and Goggins jumped into his life story, exactly what we were told in this book. Admiral Winters shares, by the time Goggins was done, you could have heard a pin drop. From then on, Goggins was given command of his own schedule, budget, and leeway to operate as long as he hit certain recruitment thresholds. And from 2007 to 2009, Goggins was on the road for 250 days a year and spoke at inner city high schools, universities, tough neighborhoods, HBCUs, and at schools of all cultures, shapes, and shades well represented. Everywhere Goggins stopped, he also ran an ultra race and rolled his training, runs, and races into his overall recruitment strategy. Wherever he stopped, he invited the students who were interested to train with him before and after school. Goggins quickly recognized that he was his best prop. And in 2009, Goggins planned on getting back into the battlefield, but in May, everything capsized, and Goggins' heart went on the blink. He went to the doctor and was scheduled an echocardiogram. In the appointment, doctor studied his heart like it was a puzzle. He was diagnosed with atrial septal defect, and in layman's terms, he had a hole in his heart. And he had a hole in his heart the whole time since he was a kid. So he was scheduled for heart surgery 3 days later. And boy, did the doc mess that up. Working out clearance was provided, but things didn't change. The doctors put a mesh over the hole, but it was either not big enough or was placed incorrectly. So 14 months later, Goggins was slated for surgery again. While he was on the way to the operation table, he asked himself, if the doctors couldn't fix me this time, would I be willing to retire satisfied? His answer, fuck no. This brings us to challenge 8.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Jay, for that summary. So for challenge 8, it says, schedule it in. It's time to compartmentalize your day. Too many of us have become multitaskers, and that's created a nation of half-asses. This will be a 3-week challenge. During week 1, go about your normal schedule, but take notes. When do you work? Are you working nonstop or checking your phone? How long are your meal breaks? When do you exercise, watch TV, or chat to friends? How long is your commute? Are you driving? I want you to get super detailed and document it all with timestamps. This will be your baseline, and you'll find plenty of fat to trim. Most people waste 4 to 5 hours on a given day, and if you can learn to identify and utilize it, you'll be on your way toward increased productivity. In week 2, build an optimal schedule. Lock everything into place in 15 to 30-minute blocks. Subtasks will make multiple blocks or entire days. Fine. When you work, only work on one thing at a time. Think about the task in front of you and pursue it relentlessly. When it comes time for the next task on your schedule, place that first one aside and apply the same focus. Make sure your meal breaks are adequate, but not open-ended, and schedule in exercise and rest too. But when it's time to rest, actually rest. No checking email or bullshitting on social media. If you're going to work hard, you must also reset your brain. Make notes with timestamps in week 2. You may still find some residual dead space. By week 3, you should have a working schedule that maximizes your effort without sacrificing sleep.
Yeah, yep. So what we're going to do, because this requires 3 weeks for this challenge, how we're going to attack this is next week, we're going to come to the podcast and we're going to have an idea of how we use our phone, how we use our time. We're going to, break down our weeks as they are normally, right? So I can tell you already, my YouTube numbers are going to be through the roof. I'm going to tell you that right now. I do a little bit too much YouTube, but I'm not going to start on knocking that down until I have an idea of what that looks like.
Right.
So I can bring that to the table and share that with the audience, and you guys can get an idea as to how much time I've been wasting and how much fat I could trim off of my daily schedule. So with that, next week we'll come to you with that, followed by the next week, week 2, building an optimal schedule. This means it's a lean schedule, right? We've cut the fat down. This is how we're going to prepare this. Maybe a week of trying to figure out how we're going to do that, what we've cut down, better hours for certain things. And then followed by the next week, we have an optimal schedule and we're putting it into work. We're actually using it. So as of this week, we do not have a detailed challenge response. It will be followed in the upcoming weeks. So to supplement that time, we're going to discuss what we did today, right? So Devin, David, and I, and a friend of ours, Jeremy, we ran a 10K, right? So that's 6.214 miles. And we did it because we were inspired by David Goggins, right? This man runs 15 miles every morning, 15 miles every night, does ultra races, and we were inspired. So we decided, without doing a 5K first, let's do a 10K, right? So we want to discuss how we felt on the run today. So I'll break it down incrementally. We'll do question 1, answer it, question 2, answer it, and so forth. So today, did you guys have a weakest moment on your run?
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We didn't run to give context to where we ran and what we ran. We didn't run a straight line or a flat surface the whole way where it was just like a street and we ran all the way through and then hit like a finish line or anything. Towards the end of the run, it was sort of a steep hill. It only lasted maybe 2 miles, probably less than that. But when you think of 10K, you usually think like maybe it's like a loop or it's just a straight narrow or a straight path to flat ground, no hills and elevation. So that was the hardest part for me, climbing the elevation. I think Jay mentioned when we finished, it was about 450 feet or 400 feet.
Elevation gain?
Yeah, like a straight elevation gain.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but the elevation, it's a short distance to cover within how fast you get uphill. But I think that was the hardest part, especially like my muscles and my legs. I wasn't like exhausted. I even voiced this to David. I wasn't exhausted at the end of the run. It was more of like my legs were just like wobbly. Like they were just like the muscles, they were giving in. So that was my weakest point because the run it felt somewhat easy. Like my pace, it felt good. I felt good the whole time until I hit that hill, and I felt my muscles like.
Yeah, I mean, in Goggins San Diego one day, right? There's a 7-foot incline somewhere in there, and it destroyed him in that race. So, I mean, running up that 400-foot elevation gain on the back end of a 10K. So we're talking 4.5 miles. We finally hit the hill. Yeah. That hill meant a lot more than if it was like over a gradual amount of time or right at the beginning. Right. So what did the weakest moment look like? You said your muscles were a little wobbly, but in your head, was there anything going on?
I think I would say like a big part of it was like David being like right in front of me. So it was almost like if you slowed down, you can visually see yourself slowing down.
Yeah.
Instead of if I was running by myself, I couldn't conceptualize how much I've slowed down and how much I slowed my pace. So I think we already knew because you guys could hear the audio from your run when you run your lap and it tells you your pace. I kept remembering I'm at a 9 minute pace. I'm at a 9 minute pace. I want to keep that. I don't want it to break over 10. I don't want it to break over 11. The reward is going to be so much greater than slowing down and being like, bro, my legs hurt. Like, nah. I just kept going and didn't think about the pain. Didn't think, even if I had to like slow down and power walk like really hard, that's what I was doing. So
David was telling me y'all were Mr. Krabs run. Is it?
It was rough. It was rough.
How about you, David? What was your weakest moment?
Weakest moments was, I want to say, in the middle of the elevation climb for sure. Same thing with Dev. I noticed that it was getting bad with my legs because I wasn't running like, I don't know, it felt like I was running, but it also felt like I was just walking, like literally just climbing. And my legs were, my muscles cramped up and my thighs were just getting tighter and tighter. And then I just kept looking at the hill and it's like, man, I gotta power through this shit, you know?
Right.
So my weakest point was definitely the elevation climb.
What did that look like in your head?
In my head, I didn't think I was gonna stop. I was either gonna like die or I don't know. I didn't think I was gonna stop. I didn't consider it. I didn't give myself the option to. So I literally told myself in my head the whole time, once that pain comes in and the governor of pain is trying to like wave his hand and try and slowly climb up, you know?
Right.
I was like, my governor was the whole time just the one that was gonna finish the race for me. So I maintained that, and I started off the race with a breathing technique. So 2 inhales and then 2 exhales per every like step or two. And I maintained that through the whole time. I'd say maybe towards the end of the hill, I was breathing pretty heavy, but
Oh yeah.
I kept reminding myself that, you know, I've ran a lot and this is just going to be another run to me. The ending, the elevation, that was the only thing I was a little sketched about, but powered through it. And I'm just fucking super happy that we all did it, you know?
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, so for myself, the weakest moment, I think we all have something in common, is it was the elevation gain. You know, it's the race started out really well. I just got some new running shoes and like they really did help. You know, I didn't think running shoes really did anything until I did a little bit of research and actually did experience myself. So the run up to the hill was nice. It was good. It was good, solid pace for me. And then I hit the hill and I was like, all right, like this is, you know, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And then there's like a turn and then one more turn before you get to the top of the final hill, like right at the top of it. So I'm like running up and I could see it and I'm like, oh shit. Oh shit. Like, dude, my lung, it wasn't so much my lungs were felt like they were going crazy. It was my leg muscles, right? You know, this past week, my knee and calf, front part of my shin had been hurting. And so that started to kick in. So then I ran to the other side of the street where it was more like your weight was more on your right foot than your left foot.
Yeah.
So I was kind of compensating by going to the other side of the road. And so there was like a little twinging pain a little bit in my knee and my front side of my shin on my left leg. And so when that came up, I was like, you know, I just switched over to the other side of the road and just kept my head down. And I was like, I'll be at the top of the hill at some point. And then what was really nice was getting to the top of that hill. And then it was downhill. So you could just kind of like, you know what I mean? Catch your breath.
Downhill was sick, dude.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So that was my weakest point. I'm going to pivot and say, you know, I'm going to ask, what cookies did we use to push through that? And for myself, you know, the past couple weekends, Appear and I have been hitting hikes at elevation, right? So we're talking, you know, from 6,000 feet to 10,500 feet. You know, we're doing major hikes that require getting used to elevation changes and hiking wise, at least, right? But not running. But in my head, I was like, look, man, I've been doing these hikes that are a lot more elevation gain than this. I think I can climb these couple hundred feet. You know what I mean? So that was a big cookie that I used. How about you, Dev?
I would say I don't think I was pulling from any like specific cookie. I think it was more of the fact that I've never done this before. And I wanted, if I was going to do this, I was going to do it to the best, like give it 1,000% and maybe set the record for myself, not like no one else, but set the record for myself. So maybe if I can't do it later in life, I know I did a 10K at a 10-mile pace or a 950 mile pace, whatever it was. I think that's what was pushing me. It was like, this is the first time you've never run more than like 2 miles. Like just push and push and push and push and push.
Right.
Obviously some cookies would be just don't slow down. Cause if you slow down, your reward isn't going to be as great. It's not going to be but I wasn't really pulling from anything specific. So I would just say like, I wanted to beat myself, you know what I mean? Like in the future.
So you knew you were gonna finish. It was just about at what pace. You know
at what pace. That was the.
So David, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'd like you to share what cookie did you use to push through?
Cookie did I pull through? I think I was just realizing, you know what I mean? When I started to feel that pain and then that question came up, I didn't think it was going to come up, but when I started getting really tired and we were up the hill and there was a bunch of cars coming and looking at us, I was like, fuck, man, we got to be crazy if we're running right now up this hill. And then the air quality is just absolutely horrible. You know? I was like, fuck, why did we decide to do this? And then I think I decided to, I like sat there, or not sat there. I like, my mind was just thinking of like, what am I pulling from right now?
Yeah.
And I started remembering, you know, we were all somebody before we started reading and really working on ourselves. And where we're at now is just like, to me, for me personally, is just miles ahead of what I thought I could be. So I was just like, man, fuck this race and fuck all the bullshit. It's like, I'm gonna do this. And that's my cookie to myself, is because like before we started doing all this, I didn't think I'd be here right now. I didn't think it was like possible. You know what I mean? We ran a 10K when there is a 10K marathon that we could have just entered as a race at downtown Fresno, which was probably not as heavy as the one that, I don't know, it's probably heavy, but just the elevation shit was crazy.
A 10K marathon isn't a thing.
A 10K
race.
Yeah,
just,
a race or whatever.
Just a 10K, yeah.
Sorry about that, yeah.
No
So yeah, that was my cookie. Just knowing where we came from and knowing that on that hill, I told myself too, it's like how David Goggins said, like, I haven't run this far ever in my life. Every step I take from right here, right now, is me getting further than I was fucking, you know, from the steps behind me. It was like every step, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too, because in the back of my head, it was like, who else is crazy enough to do this? And this, like the air, literally, if I could describe it to you guys, it looked like it was foggy. The whole area you could see for miles, but you couldn't, because it looked like it was foggy, but the whole thing, it's called a KMP complex fire. The whole area is smoked out. We're talking red to purple zone here, right? And so we had all the excuses we needed for our brain to be like, oh yeah, maybe not today, you know, maybe not today, but you know, we toughed it out. I think that was another cookie to put in the cookie jar, you know?
Yeah. The distance thing too, what David said, is like every step I took, because how you saw the wind, right? Like every time I looked up, I was like, all right, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna slow down. Every time I look down, it's like, okay, I just need another step. And so I just continued to look down, because this was fucking like looking up and seeing the curve and seeing that it was still going uphill. Yeah. That was getting to me mentally. So I just stayed looking down, and the next step is your greatest achievement. Just keep going. Every step is getting you further than where you were at earlier.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. All right. So I want to talk about what we learned about ourselves. But in order to do that, I want to understand the expectations you guys had of yourself going into the race, right? What did you expect? And what was your outcome? And what did you learn about yourself from doing the race?
Okay. So for myself, I think we talked about it on the way up. David was talking about doing a 10-minute pace. And I was trying to putting puzzle pieces together, because I've never run farther than 2 miles. So I was just, okay, if I run a 2 mile, just a regular 2 mile run at an 8-minute pace, I should be able to keep that pace for a longer period of time, but maybe slow down a little bit. You know, your body gets exhausted, or the elevation, things like that.
Yeah.
So in my head, the 10-minute goal was like, I can do that. Like if I go for shorter than that, I'm going to have to push myself harder, and I may be underachieving what I thought I could achieve. And so I don't want to push myself if I can't achieve it. So I was more of just push yourself, but if you can't get to what you think you can get, don't beat yourself up. But I knew I could hit that 10-minute pace. I for sure knew I could hit that. Mm-hmm. And so that was my expectation going in. We achieved that. It was a flat hour to the top, right at the end.
So what was your pace?
It was like a 10 mile, 10-minute pace.
Okay. So what'd you learn about yourself?
I learned about like just the physical aspect of everything. Like your body's a machine. Like your mind slows you down faster than your body will start to slow down. If you talk to yourself, and that was a big thing too. I kept talking to myself. It was distracting. I kept slowing down every time. I was like, okay, well, you just got to. Sometimes I just went blank. I just went black. Yeah. It's just like I didn't want to think of anything because it was distracting me. So that was a big thing is this physical aspect thing, especially with what David mentioned earlier, is reading and pushing ourselves in the gym and trying to achieve specific goals in life. You realize it's not as hard as you think. You just have to kind of cut the bullshit. Like you just have to just cut the distraction, just really hone in your focus, and you can achieve. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to run a 6 mile run, but work up to it. If you can't run it off the bat, then don't beat yourself up. You never ran a 6 mile ever. So don't kill yourself. So I think your mind will slow your physical body down. Your machine.
I noticed that too. I noticed when I was running, my thoughts were sort of, I would notice, I'd recognize, why am I thinking, like, I was on a positive note, and then I would think about one thing that was sort of like, oh man, like what if I do stop? And those thoughts were harder to regather back to my normal pace, where I was just like, man, I'm fucking cutting like the wind. I'm going to do this race for sure. So it became, I think it's like almost like as if your thoughts were easier to be thrown off track because you were in a physical state where the pain governor was trying to make you stop.
Yeah. So how about you, David? What were your expectations coming into the race? And what did you learn about yourself?
My expectations were to be at that 10-minute pace, similar to what we had ran at Woodward when we did 4 miles. I wanted to keep that pace, or even just a little bit faster. The results where I did keep that 10-minute pace, even with the elevation and whatnot, we still did it. And I feel pretty proud of myself, but when I finished it, I felt this feeling of, man, maybe I've been undervaluing or underselling myself for how much I actually could run. Because imagine if there was an elevation, or imagine if we just would have kept running.
Yeah.
On the hill down, we were picking up a lot of speed again.
Yeah.
You know, we could have really did a lot of miles, and realizing that it was 40%. I got super excited. I felt good.
Hell yeah, man. Wow. Yeah. I think for myself, my expectation, David, right at the beginning of the race was like, so what's up, guys? 10-minute mile or what? I was like, nah. I was a 10-minute per mile pace. I was like, nah, my whole goal doing this, even before we really planned this out, was I just want to run for 60 minutes straight. Right. And so my whole thing was I just wanted to run the entire 10K. No walking, no stopping, no breaks, just the entire time. And, the results, I did that. I maintained like what I'm usually running right now so I'm running so I'll run 3.5 to 2.5 to 3.5 miles regularly throughout the week. I'm doing like 11-minute miles. The pace I had today was like 11 minutes, 22 seconds. So I stayed in this like kind of general region that I'm pretty used to pace wise, including the hill, right? So the results were, I came in third. I was 1 hour and 16 minutes. I did 6.74 miles. So, I'm very proud of what I did and accomplished in that race. My whole thing too, I was like, I'm not coming in last. I'm not coming in last. And we ran with another person. And, he wasn't preparing for the race. So it's not like, it was expected. But dude really did really, really well. And I hope to do it again. Like that was I learned a lot about, hey, I didn't think running that far in the manner that I did was not that it wasn't achievable, but at this moment it was something I could do. Right. When I was running and you guys took off and it was just me back there and I caught up to Jeremy, I felt good. Right. Usually when I run, I'm like, oh man, my legs or my hips or whatever. Right. I felt good, like having some new shoes and a good pace, and then Jeremy right there to talk to while we're running. I felt good. And so I learned that, with the right gear and the right mindset, these challenging tasks, for some part of them at least, can be fun, right? I feel excited to do that again, right? That was really a test as to what we could do, right? And to see that we succeeded at that and we have numbers that we can try and achieve better, that was really a fun experience and something I would love to do again. And so that brings us to our next question. What is our new goal? So let's start with David or Devin.
I would just say my new goal is to maybe do it twice in a month, or maybe in the next, month or whatever or so. I'm not really, in a sense, trying to beat that. Just because I know that I don't run as often. I don't. But what I started doing at the gym, though, I started running 2 miles at a high level, just to push myself, keep that 8-minute pace. 8-minute pace for a mile per mile. And then maybe over time, I might be able to decrease that 8 minutes to 7 minutes and to 6 minutes. And then when I'm at that point, then maybe push myself to run 26 miles, run an actual marathon.
Yeah.
But I think running 6 miles to maybe 10 miles. I don't think it was to be honest, I think we could have kept going if there was no elevation. If there was an elevation, we probably could have hit 10 miles pretty easy. But that's not, in a sense, my goal. I think if we plan for that, I'm up for it.
Okay. How about you, David? What's your new goal?
My new goal, I really want to see how fast I can do. Well, as far as just working on my training, I want to see how faster I can go running. Just I guess making my pace faster for certain miles. So I usually typically run 2 miles a day, maybe 4 days, 5 days out of the week. I want to see if I can up my pace in that realm, because I think that's my training for me to ultimately run longer distances and overall get a better pace. I worked on my form today. I watched the videos on what like professional runners do to sort of make sure their pace is optimal and their cadence is good. So I want to incorporate all the techniques that I brought today on my regular day training.
Okay. And I think we can include John in this one. What's your new physical goal?
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it last time. I'm trying to work back up to a broad goal. I'm trying to work back up to 10 miles. I also ran 6 miles last weekend. So, to be honest, Ace was kind of lagging today. So I think maybe I've been pushing him too much. So, I'm gonna have to figure out a balance between us, because he's still young. But he's like my running partner. So,
Or Ace.
My second goal I've been thinking about playing around with is that, like today, for example, this weekend we ran to the dog park. Instead of driving to the dog park, I'm going to try just running to the dog park. It's like a mile. It's like a mile and a half.
Okay.
So like, what to get used to my time, right? Like I'm still getting the run in. I'm still doing the dog park thing with Ace, and then I thought to myself, how could I make running to work for me? Like, could I just leave? Because like the kids changing the clothes to weld. Like, why couldn't I? So I'm trying to figure out like how can I make that work? Or maybe ride a bike, because I still want to bring like food and stuff. So I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate maybe just not driving to work, because it's close enough. So I just need to find like a good pattern. Probably like a mile and some change. Like it take me like under 10 minutes to run there. You know.
You guys have a gym there?
At John Hanley we do. At the Innovation Center we don't.
Okay.
And so like I couldn't shower or anything, so that way like I'm not trying to get like all sweaty. So I'm trying to figure out like if I ride a bike, like I'm not gonna be fucking stinky or anything. Like it's a pretty easy bike ride, right? So I want to figure out if I can plug in workout to get to work instead of driving.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm gonna implement running to the dog park thing.
Okay. Awesome. I think it'd be good too, because like I mean it's only a mile, but I mean your gas number per month will come down. You're driving to school 5 less
and
times.
The kids will see that. They see Mr. Crow's working hard, and like miles add up. Like a mile and a half there, mile and a half back, mile and a half to dog park, mile and a half back. That's already 4 miles. You know what I'm saying? So that's 6 miles, right? That's three. Yeah. So,
yeah, man. And like in David Goggins' case, he became his best prop, right?
Right.
So when the kids see you and they see that you're not bullshitting them, then they'll be inspired, you know, at least the ones that want to be, right?
Totally.
Definitely. So for me, my new goal, I kind of felt enthralled with the distance that we ran, right? I want to run further. So, that 6.74 miles at the end of that race, I still dead sprinted towards the end. I had more in the tank. You know what I mean? And so I think, like, let's say in a month from now, we could do 15K. That's 9.3 something miles.
I would say 10 miles. Let's go for 10
do the
miles.
10, right? Like, let's just do the 10 miles in a month. We can train like this week, because I got a little blisty on the arch of my right foot.
I'm surprised you guys didn't mention anything about that, because I know when I ran my 7 miles, dude, like my feet, I could feel blisters for sure. I remember thinking like, bro, this shit sucked, but if you stop, you gotta walk all the way back in blisters. You might as well just finish it up.
Right.
None of you guys mentioned that shit. I was like, yo, I was hurting. Like I remember being like, I hurt right now.
I remember feeling that going up the hill. I was like, oh man, I just gotta push it, But I'm gonna train this week by kind of incorporating more cycling. So at least until the blisty heals up, and then once that's back on, I want to run further distance next month.
Same.
I'd like to plan that out. Like, we'll drop a flyer, try and get people to join us. But if we said like 10 miles, we could lay out a path. And I think, like you said, Dev, and like you said, David, we could do that. You know what I mean? The pace might take a little hit, but the distance aspect of it was like really dope to me. I was like, wow, if I could run this, I think I can do 10. And let's say we do 10 and I'm like, oh yeah, then maybe I could do 13.1. Okay, well then maybe I could do 15, and just kind of keep bumping it up. The distance side of it really stood out to me. And so my new goal would be to run 10 miles in one race, or like one attempt, right?
Nice.
Not like spaced out. Because I remember being like, even a couple of weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I'm going to run 10 miles in 1 week. I did it, but now I want to do it in one day, right? So I really can't like the distance side of things. And so moving forward, if we could do that, that'd be great. If not, I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, that was really cool. And I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for joining me this morning and putting that together. It's only up from here. So I'm really excited about where that physical development turns into,
Yeah, even I didn't feel my blister until I stopped running, and it just felt like you know how like your like something rubs against your skin and it starts to just create a rash.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like. It felt like a little tiny cut, and then I took my shoe off and I was like, oh shit, it's an actual blister.
Dude, today I ran like 2 and some change, and I decided to run with my Camel Pack because I was gonna go to the dog park. I didn't want to be thirsty, and like I wanted, like, it's more work with the Camel Pack because it's filled with like half a gallon of water and like whatever, I always forget that the Camel Pack fucking leaves a blister on my back when I run, and like immediately I'm like, son of a bitch, this shit hurts. And I thought to myself, I was like, bro, David Goggins was running with like broken bones. You can deal with like a little boo boo on your back. Like, don't be a bitch. That's literally what I told myself.
Does your Camelback have the padding on the inside? Right.
It does, dude. But like, it's a certain point where it just hits my back, and like that padding, it's actually ripped itself off because of how much it rubs against me. Because I've worn it so many times.
Yeah.
It's just like it's where it meets the most contact with my skin.
Oh man.
Time for a new one.
Nah, no way, dude. Camelback, OG.
Meanwhile, my back shredded. It looked like a cheese grater.
It hurts right now.
Hey man, it adds another mental aspect to it. All right, so that concludes our reading challenge supplement for the week. We will touch down with y'all next week about our schedules and how that looks and how we can optimize that. So with that, we want to say thank you guys very much for tuning in to Paradyme. We love that you watch. We want to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that little ding. You know what I'm saying? Make sure it dings for you. Like the video. And make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms. All the information will be down in the description below. This is Jay, John, Devin, David signing off. But before we go, remember, the work you put in now equals who you'll be tomorrow. Peace.
How are you tomorrow, baby?
Whoops.